Good morning, Ann. How are you?
Good morning, Matt. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. Tired. This is my first thing in the morning, but that's what it is. So,
You're here. Have you had coffee yet?
no, I haven't done anything.
Ugh. And you're in Vegas, so they don't have coffee in the rooms, right?
They do. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah. Well, the place I'm at has like a washer dryer and a kitchen, so it
Cool.
has everything you need. But I usually get coffee. It's like a cafe in Aria that I like. That's pretty good. And they have a muffin. I usually get like a muffin in the morning because it's a lot of energy. So, uh,
Gotcha.
that's
Nice.
usually what I do.
Yeah. So, me, I had to have coffee. I was already in the gym. It's a really good Friday here. I'm doing well.
Oh, I totally forgot it's Friday. My
It's
days
Friday.
are a blur. So I have to, I fly back to Houston and then I drive. So I'm like always like doing something. So I don't even know. It's Monday, Friday, and I work at night.
Where where are you driving to when you fly back to Houston?
I go to Chicago. I drive to
Oh,
Chicago.
you're driving to Chicago?
Yeah, because when I'm there, I just go all over. And like I love the drive because I can't work. Um,
Yeah.
and I get to listen to podcasts. I get to do my own thing for 16 hours basically.
Driving sets the tone that I want to talk about today, which is a boundary. Driving forces you to have boundaries while traveling with work. And it's probably one of the best tactics you could do if you don't want to be working when you're on the road traveling, whereas an airplane is so easy to fall into work mode if you didn't want to. So, what I wanted to talk about today was boundaries. One of the things that I've really been focusing on this week is boundary setting at home and at work, right? If you don't hold solid boundaries at home, you won't at work, and vice versa. Boundary setting is such an important tool of self worth and feeling seen and heard. And an example of this, I was just a guest on another podcast this week, and I gave my time constraint. You and I always do a beautiful job of this. We're like, before we even hit record, we're like, how much time you have today? And then we honor that, right? For the most part. There's some tangents, but we do that. I feel like this isn't just go into a podcast recording. It goes into meetings, client calls, discovery calls, calls with friends. And it's something that I learned later in life where when you set a boundary and someone doesn't adhere to it, or they don't remember it, or they just blow past it for whatever reason, it's the easiest way to make someone feel unseen and unheard, and it's devaluing. And I used to think, oh, I don't want to be a bitch. I don't want to like start this call and say, I only have 15 minutes. It just feels restrictive to me with like the flowy, open conversation I wanted. But it's so important because running late to things after your time limit is disrespected or you go over is then disrespectful to the rest of the people that day that you had commitments with. So anyway, that's my tangent today. I want to break that down. I want to talk to you about your boundaries, and I want to maybe think through some strategies and tips to hold boundaries, and with kindness and with respect, and not be the asshole, but still be the person that makes others feel seen and heard.
So there's 2 points. I'll work backwards here. The asshole part, I think, is just more personality. I get comments all the time that maybe I'm not being sensitive enough to the situation, or I'm kind of tone deaf. I get that a lot, and I'm like, so what? I
Okay.
mean, I'm just going to speak my. I just don't have the energy to filter what I really want to say, and maybe that's not considerate to all parties. But I'm like, there's just some days where, um, as a person with very limited time, and I know I have to respect other people's time too, but just knowing that, like, I just don't want to bullshit anything.
Yeah,
So I just want to cut
absolutely.
through really fast. It's not just for my own interest, but it's for everyone else's interest. It's not
Hmm.
like you know, a lot of the things I talk to, and I think it depends on the setting too. So just like only in a business setting. Look, if we're in a business setting, most of the time, like, we have some goal, we have our own agendas and we have goals to hit, right? So if I'm part of that meeting, I'm part of that discussion, I'm also thinking in your best interest too, right?
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
that means like I'm going to cut through bullshit. If you don't like it, it's not a ding on you. It is just like I know where we need to go. We don't need to waste so much time.
Yeah.
So I'm get calling it. So from a boundary perspective, I get called an asshole a lot, and it's like I could be more sensitive to it, but it actually takes a lot more energy to do that, and it gets to the same outcome.
Yeah.
A lot of the things I come to the table is, yeah, I'm not, I'm not a relate, a lot of my business and success isn't really driven from like really deep relationships. It's
Mm-hmm.
really just driven on the value I bring to the table. So, that seeps really, maybe it's a bad thing, but it seeps very clearly in meetings, because in meetings, I'm like, I just, I'm not the nicest person, but I
Yeah.
am the person who gets deals done, and I am the closer. I'm always the closer when
Uh-huh.
it comes to sales. Never an opener. Cannot open like that, but I can close things. Yeah, yeah. I know my weakness there too. So,
Yeah.
I
My issue with this is I think I also am the asshole in terms of some meetings and some, situations where I have to hold the boundary, but I try to do it because I'm a relater, and I have high empathy. I try to do it from a place
right.
of almost smoothing things over before I deliver the harsh, or just, kind of deliver things quickly, but with a little bit of warmth. And then I'm afraid
That's
that
the EQ part of it too, right? I mean,
but then I'm afraid that I'm going to be viewed as fake or inauthentic, or just trying to kind of sugarcoat really shitty things. And I don't want to be that way either. So I'm always kind of on the fence of like, do I just be direct and cold and less emotional, or do I try to have some warmth with the straight news?
so my opinion there, which is actually just more to an efficiency. It's either you do my approach, or you do the opposite. You're actually just extremely like you just don't. You're just always looking out how people are, and you just don't really think about anything else, and that also works. If you're in
Yeah.
the middle and you're like contemplating and choosing battles, that's where it's really hard to, that's why you're actually have an internal monologue, and you kind of,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's distracting. And then I'm trying to read the people that I'm with, and I'm like, well, I should be warmer with this person because they're sensitive. And then I'm like, no, fuck no. Like, this is the
yeah.
year of Anne not being filtered. Like, I don't filter myself for anybody. I show up as I am, and you can choose to be in this space with me and engage or not.
Filter might be too strong of a word. It's more of the empathetic piece, right? Because
Yeah.
like I say filter because truly I am more unfiltered, and truly I am. Most words are not coming off as empathetic, so I'm not really drawing from that well.
Yeah.
But if you are drawing from an empathetic end, that's not really a filter, right? It's more of like, how do I think myself in their shoes? And that's what it
I
is.
love that.
A filter is different. A filter it doesn't always have to include that piece. A filter can
It's
just
modifying the way you come across so that people will like you or have some certain opinion of you that you're going
it could
for.
be that, it could be many things.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then my other point I wanted to make was setting the boundaries just in general. I 100% agree. You got to set boundaries, but I think how everyone does it, you got to choose your own philosophy on what that boundary is, right? Um,
What are
I
the
my
philosophies of the boundaries? What do you mean by that?
like my boundaries are probably in the span of 12, maybe 7 7 to 30 days, meaning like there might be, I like for maybe, okay, I'll give you an example. The most common boundary would be day to day, and it's going to be like, okay, the first 8 to 10 hours, or 8 to 10 hours is work, 6 to 8 hours is everything else, and then the rest is sleep, right? You set these like, it's a pie chart really, and it goes in thirds, and that was your boundary, and that's every day. That my version of boundaries is much different. Is it could be like, for 7 straight days I am just working, and I was only working. Maybe it's table tennis, or maybe for 7 straight days that pie is just divided by two, and it could be just be like, all right, I'm gonna hang out with my wife, and then I'm gonna do table tennis, and work is not even part of the equation. It
Mm-hmm.
actually just depends. I work in these like big blocks because
Yeah.
I don't believe a day is enough to understand. A day is not enough to put enough energy into to moving wherever you need to go. My personal relationship doesn't need like multiple days, but everything else does.
Yeah.
The table tennis requires at least a 2-day chunk. Work is technically nonstop, but I figure a way to, the work I do maybe in a 3 to 4 day sprint makes up for the next 3 to 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Or on the other side, say I have training. Training might be, I went to California earlier this year. I trained for 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks, and then I didn't. I had work, but work was more on the side. Actually, I had people taking care of everything, and then that was table tennis for 6.5 weeks straight. That was like main
Yeah.
focus. That was a boundary. I
How
purposely
did
went
you
to
hold that boundary though? Like that's a long period
Oh,
of
it's just
time
I
to
want to
not
hit. I
work.
want to hit a goal. I mean, like, look. So this is perfect. The tournament I'm in, like, my ranking will go up like a lot. This would be, once the chart updates, it'll just be like a hockey stick going up, because
Mm-hmm.
this was the goal this whole time, that for the whole year I did 2 training sets. One 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks in California, and then here back in Houston, I did another 5 weeks with one of the coaches from Cuba. And it's like, you if you have a goal you want to hit, you have to plan out what do you have to sacrifice to get there,
Yeah.
and then you work from there. And then once you figure out what sacrifice is needed, you set the boundary for it. And right when you understand the sacrifice, then you have to weigh, is that sacrifice worth it or not? Right? Because there's some folks who can't, like, say you're starting a business. Well, if you have a wife, like, say you have a partner and you have 2 kids, and kind of already living paycheck to paycheck. Um, that means the sacrifice that you to start that business is, you're going to now be on financial thin ice. You're going to be, maybe they don't know it yet, but your emotions are going to be sacrificed eventually.
Sure.
Um, and it's just going to be like a huge turmoil. And you have to think, is that worth it? Right? You can totally set the boundary to make it work and have a chance at making it work, at least. But the sacrifice defines the boundary.
Yeah.
And that's how that's my philosophy. I think everyone is different. This is not, I don't think there's a universal way of doing it. I think there is.
No.
You for
But I
sure
like what
have
you
to have
just said.
boundaries.
You said, is it worth it? And I think that's really important when you're boundary setting, to take a step back and realize what the boundary needs to be for you to be successful at the thing, right? And then you have to decide, is it worth it? So blind boundaries just going into place don't always need to make sense. They don't always need to be there. They're really rigid. So I really like that perspective of taking some time to reflect. I need to do this boundary. I need to have this time, or I need to have this sacrifice away from X, or, I need to set this boundary so that I can show up as I want to after, or whatever that needs to look like. But you ask yourself, is it worth it? And I love this. I wanted to give an example of when I chose to disobey my boundary. And it was when I was having this amazing client session. And I remember my client sessions are always 90 minutes, and I had a meeting after. And we just, like, an hour and 15 minutes in, were crying together and processing and getting into the depths of her story. And I do remember there were several times, in work and personal life, where I've chosen to have a boundary not stick. And I loved the reflection. Is it worth it? And I looked at my meeting after and I said, no, the time constraint is not a boundary I'm wanting to keep. It's not worth it, because the energy and what we are doing in this moment will not be gained again ever. And I have to stay here, and I want to stay here. So I'm choosing it. So then I messaged the person after
Right.
me and said, I'm going to run over and I need to reschedule with you. And I just continued flowing. We went for 2.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I checked in with her. Hey, we're at time, but I'm willing to keep going. How about you? She was great. So, like, we just kept going in this moment that was so beautiful. And that was one of the most profound brand therapy sessions I've ever had in 12 years of doing it. So I do love this reminder that our audience needs to hear. You need to actually make the decision of what this boundary is giving you, and do you want it? Do you choose it? Because you have a right to choose a different boundary.
Another thing too, boundaries are not based on the event you're in. Boundaries are always a comparison of something, because, right, a boundary is a divider. So that means every time you think about adding a divider, you're actually looking at 2 things and comparing. That's like
Sure.
the most important thing. And then what you're comparing is usually, I think, three dimensions. So it's either purely time, purely energy, or a hybrid between time and energy. Right. So like if it's time, well, it's usually because you got meetings. The meetings you got to respect everyone else, and it's fine. For me, because I play a lot of table tennis, energy is also a big consideration. So I know um, if I have to do games or if I have a tournament, I cannot do anything that is like product development, anything that requires like deep thinking, because by the time I play the game, I'm not going to have enough. It's hard to explain it, but like basically just thinking power. Like I'm not on my toes of like ready to analyze in microseconds for the next 4 hours, like for my tournament. I can't do it if I already previously worked. Time is no problem, but the energy for that for my head was, it has to be respected. And same
Yeah.
and vice versa. If I have um, to do like crazy product development, usually I still have enough time, but I'll probably, if I play table tennis, I won't do any games I won't do any games practice, do my kind of mindless stuff because
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure all the energy is put into the most important thing that I need to finish. And then same thing with like, if for everyone who has like a partner, you have to set some time for a relationship too. It's very easy for that to slip on the side because most likely usually both partners are working too. So my wife works a
Yeah.
lot, so we have to actively coordinate. Hey, do we want to have dinner later? Do we want to hang out tomorrow? Like we're always like figuring that out too because we're always busy. Our schedules are. If I'm playing table tennis, that's when she breaks. When she breaks, I'm working. So it's hard to figure it out. So that's another thing too is like boundaries cannot be too rigid. Well, it goes back into is it worth it, right? So like
Yeah.
there's always something that can override a boundary. If you have
Sure.
enough, if you have like three things in your plate, one of them will always have a chance to override the other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you just have to understand there's going to be situations where that needs to call for it. So if you didn't put enough time in this one little space, and that maybe that because you set the boundaries so hard for the other two, well, what happens is the space starts to decline. So then eventually that's going to catch up, and you have to be like that. If that maybe this piece wasn't from a day-to-day perspective on the high priority, well, maybe the next week, well, for one day, this is now the highest priority, and the other two just need to disappear.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's
there's
that
that too.
constant evaluation of the two choices. I like what you said. You draw a line. There's two things on the table. You have to say what matters most to me right now. It's also a timing thing. And I really also appreciate that with your partner that you guys are always checking in. I do that too. And we say, hey, do you want to hang out tonight? Or what did you want to do tonight? Did you have to work? Do you have to run errands? Are you going to the gym? You can't assume, and I think the more you ask those people that you keep close in both work and at home to say, how did you intend to use this time? Or when can we connect? Because the boundary. And I used to not hold really great boundaries for myself. So my relationship and my trust with myself was really terrible. And I didn't even know that guiding my life was the reason why I wasn't showing up with other people, because I wasn't showing up for myself. So when I started saying, I want this matters to me. What is a rigid boundary and what is a soft boundary? What can I choose to shift? What can I choose to sacrifice? Or because I want something, right? And that's going to change. Like some
I
weeks I
think
have
the
a hard,
boundaries are never rigid, actually. Yeah, because
ooh, okay.
because
Boundaries
they
are
have to
never
move.
rigid.
Like a lot. I'll give you like here's another scenario. Sometimes um, a block of whatever took more space than it should have, but I negotiated what the next thing was later, and it all worked out.
Yeah.
Right? It was just like a little bit of negotiation. Um, I don't believe it's rigid.
Boundaries take negotiation with
Yeah, I mean,
yourself.
you're really, like I said, you're comparing, so you're always negotiating.
Yeah.
At some point, some things are. I think if you look at it from a time perspective, then for sure you have a little bit more rigidity because if you have meetings booked, you really don't have flexibility with that.
Sure.
You have other people depending on you, most likely, if you're going to a meeting. So
Yeah.
those aren't moving, those are going to be rigid. But
Sure.
if it's work, like units of work or like eating or like hobbies, whatever, I feel like you do have boundaries, but you can move. They're flexible. They're flexible based on how you negotiate with them.
Yeah, but then having the boundaries within that flexibility and saying, okay, I would love to allow 2 hours, or I would love to do
No,
this. I mean, you could put your goal, and if it needs to shift, that's also a choice.
this is where I am not too time. Besides meetings, I'm not too time oriented. I'm goal oriented, because if I set a goal, I will do whatever it takes to hit it.
I see.
Right?
So the time isn't the factor in the boundary. It's not, I'm going to give
Most
it
of the
this.
time,
It's,
time is sacrificed.
I'm going to do this until X is done, because
Yeah,
that's my
and
goal.
most likely I negotiate the next thing that might be time dependent to be more flexible with that in mind. And then
I
it
love
goes vice
that.
versa. Sometimes I hit the goal early. Okay, close lap. If it's work, close laptop, move on.
And that's a gift. Oh my gosh, I love when that
No, it's
happens.
not a gift. No, it evens out. No, it's not a
I
gift.
think it's a gift. Every time I hit time early, or I end a meeting early.
I'll say why it's not a gift, because there are other times when um, your goal took longer to hit.
You're right.
It just evens out.
It's the net neutrality. It's everything's got a balance. And speaking of boundaries, I am at the end of my conversation time today for what I have coming up next. So I'm going to hold that boundary.
Okay, well, sounds good. Anne, thanks for bringing up the topic. I think
Yeah,
boundaries are good, and we'll have to dive into more of the philosophy of it, because I think there's more to unpack. But
yeah, it's
we'll chat,
important. Thanks for
next
engaging
time.
with me on this. Okay, bye, Matt.